last night the Lions beat the Cowboys, but I'm reading just now, according to a source, tests this morning have confirmed that superstar Lions defensive back Brian Branch has torn his Achilles.
Not good.
Oh, my God. I saw him carted off in the fourth quarter. The Lions beat the Cowboys last night 44-30, but this guy suffered an injury while attempting to break up a pass in the end zone with Alex Anzalone against Jake Ferguson, and he landed awkwardly on the play. He stayed down on the field for an extended period. He had to be carted off. Anytime you see a guy carted off, that's never a good thing. Branch is one of the best, man. He's 24. He's a one-time Pro Bowler, second-round pick in 2023 out of Alabama. He started all 12 games this season, 75 tackles, 9 passes defense, 5 quarterback hits. He's one of the top defensive players in the league. And you know what? This is like what I was talking about over the last month. It's like the Niners' playoff viability is going nothing but up because with the bye week, they have less exposure than some of these other teams. One less game, less to play. And none of these teams are going to get better. They're all potentially going to get worse. And we saw, Buffalo lose Ed Oliver. We saw Tucker Kraft go down in Green Bay. Now we're seeing Brian Branch, torn Achilles, done for the year with Detroit. This is a crushing blow for the Lions. I think the Lions might be one of the best teams left. And, they may not make the playoffs. And even if they do, they're not going to have Branch. Give me your reaction to that one. This is a major injury.
Major injury, and obviously it has a lot of implications on the NFC and the NFC playoff picture. You mentioned Kev being late for the stream. The great Fran Dunphy used to say when I was a student media member at Temple University, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're an asshole. And that is something in my professional life that I have always tried to remember, that if there is a work event, I always try to be on time. Now, I'm not ripping Kev, but I just wanted to pass that along. Maybe it's some inspiration to some people out there.
Yeah. When I worked with the great Gary Radnich, we used to say, because Gary loved to walk in at the last second. And he goes, Krug, if you walk in at the last second, you're cool. If you walk in late, you're an asshole.
Something similar there.
Very similar.
But
so there you go.
Going back to the Brian Branch injury, he's a terrific player. What's unfortunate for him is that he was going to be contract extension eligible after this year. And I think that Detroit was going to pay him under this Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell regime. They've really prioritized paying their own players. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. They just gave Aiden Hutchinson a bag. And so what Holmes has done such a great job of is draft and develop. And Dan Campbell obviously has helped develop these players and coach them up. Brian Branch was another example of that, a safety who was really good on that back end, but could make a lot of plays and mix it up around the line of scrimmage. And I saw the injury happen on Thursday, and immediately he goes down, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. And then obviously on Friday morning, there's the chatter of that being an Achilles injury, and it sucks if it's torn, if that's the case, because he's a terrific player, but you also worry about the long-term ramifications for him because he was contract extension eligible. How does that impact what Detroit might do after this year? And this is the NFL, though. That is the reality of it. Niner fans know all about this, right? Nick Bosa goes out in week 3, tears his ACL again. He has a long history of ACL injuries, going all the way back to high school, partially torn as a senior. In 2020, he tore an ACL. Now in 2025, he tears another one. Then a couple weeks later, the Niners lose Fred Warner. What these good teams can do because of high-level coaching is find a way to absorb the blows of losing these players, but coach the rest of the team up and still instill belief in the rest of the team with a good culture that even though those players go down, whether it be scheme, play calling, some of the leaders in place, you can find ways to survive these injuries. This is nothing new to Detroit. Detroit last year was one of the most injured teams in football. And they had so many marquee players get hurt last year, yet they still were the number 1 seed in the NFC. This is not new to the Niners. Under Kyle Shanahan, we talked about this. They've been top 10 in injury rate every year outside of 2023, and oftentimes injuries have happened to some of their upper echelon players. And so this impacts Detroit, impacts the NFC playoff picture in a year where it's wide open. But with it being wide open, that's why the Niners have a shot here at 9-4, having won 3 games in a row, coming out of the bye week with the stretch run. That's going to be incredibly fun.
I think we've seen in the last 3 weeks what the Niners' template for success is: get turnovers. The defense is not great, and it's never going to be great, not this year. But they have 7 turnovers in the last 3 games.
Been huge.
And if you get 7 turnovers, you got a chance to win. I mean, look at last night's game. Dallas had more yards. Dallas won the time of possession, but they were -3 in turnovers, and Detroit won the game. So I kind of feel like the 49ers have a really improving special teams unit, which is foreign territory for us. We're not used to saying that, but their Niners special teams is getting better. You got Brock Purdy back. I thought last week he did incredibly well just taking care of the football. 7 throwaways. I thought last week was real growth from Purdy. I think this is the template for him too. It's like, if you don't have it, throw it away. You have a good special teams unit. Punt. Trust your defense. Don't, take care of the football. If Brock Purdy takes care of the football, I think the 49ers are like halfway home to victory. They have to take care of the football. He can't, if he's -2, -3, I mean, it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. But if the Niners don't get lots of takeaways on defense, so they really can't afford to turn it over on offense. And in this last game, they didn't, and they've got 7 takeaways in the last 3 games. And if they can keep taking the ball away and protecting the ball, even without Warner, even without Bosa, they have a shot. I don't know how big of a shot, but it's a shot.
I agree, because the NFC and the AFC is wide open. I mean, you look at the AFC right now, the number 1 seed is the Denver Broncos. That defense is tremendous, but Bo Nix and that offense has been so up and down. Outside of that, you really don't trust another team in the AFC. You have the Jags in the 3 spot. Buffalo's defense is awful. The Ravens can't stay healthy. Lamar Jackson's hurt once again. The Indianapolis Colts are falling back to reality. And in the NFC, think about all the news that has happened just over the last few days, right? I thought going into last week, the Rams were the best team in the NFC. Then they lose as 10-point favorites against the Panthers on the road, a Panthers team that the Niners dominated despite 3 first-half turnovers. And then I'm thinking, okay, Cowboys are playing really well. Offense is humming. Defense, since the Quinnen Williams trade, it's been much improved. They were looking like the hottest team in the NFC if it wasn't the Rams. And then once December turns around, the big game Dallas Cowboys show up again. And last night on Thursday Night Football, they lose to the Detroit Lions. And so this NFC is completely wide open. And with the Niners being 9-4, there is a chance that they could represent the NFC in Super Bowl 60 at Levi's Stadium, because there isn't a great team in the NFL, which adds to the intrigue of the season in both conferences, because we really don't know who's going to be playing in February for Super Bowl 60. Any team could honestly make it. And you made a couple of good points there. Like when the Niners lost to the Rams, I had said that the guide for the rest of the year, the offense was going to have to carry this team. The defense was going to have its lumps and bruises, but because they're talent deficient and they don't have a lot of depth, this Niners offense was going to have to carry the load and let this defense catch up and maybe mature over time. And we've seen a little bit of a maturation process from this defense, but what we've also seen is that this offense scored more than 40 points against the Cardinals. They scored 20 against Carolina, but they won by 11, still covered a touchdown spread, and despite 3 turnovers, they still won by 11. And then last week, against Cleveland, a really good defense, they score 26 points. They've been opportunistic in all of these games. And this defense has improved a little bit. Now, I know that the schedule hasn't been that great, but sometimes confidence can do wonders. Points given up for this Niners defense: 22 against Arizona, 9 against Carolina, 8 against Cleveland. They forced those 7 turnovers in those 3 games during this 3-game winning streak that you had mentioned. And the rushing yards allowed, this has been big because against the Rams, they couldn't control the game. They gave up 36 rushing yards against Arizona, 69 against Carolina, and 138 against Cleveland, but Cleveland couldn't throw the ball. So Robert Saleh has done such a great job all year long of making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And I've been saying for a long time, like, I think he's doing the best defensive coordinator job of anybody in the NFL this year with all of the injuries, all of the youth, all of the new faces. He has just been stellar for this team.
No question. Week 14 is here, and it got underway last night. I wasn't sure as a Niner fan who I should root for between Dallas and Detroit. Detroit got a 14-point win, 44-30 over Dallas, but lost Brian Branch. The Cowboys lost the game, and I saw you tweeted out they have a 9% chance now of making the playoffs.
Yep.
Who should Niner fans have been rooting for last night? Because on one hand, Detroit might be the best team in football. And so, heck, if you could have them miss the playoffs, that would be great. And I know they're closer to the Niners than Dallas. But on the other hand, Dallas, since getting Quinnen Williams, looks like the hottest team in football. And they've got an explosive offense and an improving defense and a really good kicker. I almost kind of like the fact that Dallas looks like they're a 2026 proposition at this point, more than a viable playoff team this year. Who should the Niners fans have been rooting for last night?
Well, it's classic Dallas Cowboys that may be one of their best teams over the last few years. Is a year where I don't think they're going to make the playoffs now. They're 6-6-1. The Niners are the 7 seed, the final wild card spot, and they're already 9-4. So because Dallas got off to the slow start this year, they really dug themselves into a hole that they've been trying to climb out of. They won those 3 games in a row. If they won last night and they were 7-5-1, not only would things be interesting for Dallas in the wild card picture, but also in the NFC East, because the Eagles right now are 8-4. If they were to have lost, or if they do lose on Monday and the Cowboys would have won, you'd be looking at Dallas at 7-5-1, Philadelphia at 8-5. Dallas would have had a realistic shot to win the NFC East, get into the playoffs, and I think be a dangerous team because that offense is electric and the defense much improving. But now with that Dallas loss, I think we can say that the Cowboys are chalked. I mean, they have a 9% chance of making the playoffs. Even with Detroit right now, they are now 8-5 on the year. But again, the Niners, the final wild card team at 9-4, they still have some cushion. The Niners have a better shot to get the number 1 seed than they do the playoffs. And so going into or talking about the craziness of the NFC this year, part of the craziness is there's not a great team. We have no idea who the real Super Bowl contenders are. This thing is completely wide open. Any team can win it, including the 49ers, because there's not a great team on the other side of the bracket in the AFC either. But also, you're looking at these wild card teams right now. You have the Seahawks, who have 9 wins. They're a wild card team. The Packers, who have 8 wins. They're a wild card team. And the Niners have 9 wins. They're behind the Packers with a 1 win more than Green Bay, but Green Bay has that tie. And so it's been so wacky. I don't think Detroit is the best team in the NFL. I think injuries have hurt them, and I just don't think that offense and defense is quite the same. And that's what happens when you lose a generational play caller in Ben Johnson and you lose a really good defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn. I think you've seen that this year with Detroit. There's been a step down from where they've been in prior years, because look at what Ben Johnson's doing now with Chicago, right? You lose a guy like Ben Johnson. Now he has the Bears at 9-3. They're having their best season since 2018. And Aaron Glenn, to his credit, the Jets have been playing better a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And so when you lose 2 coordinators like that, who are that high level as far as coordinators go, really difficult to replace them. But that is a testament to what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have built there, that they're still 8-5 despite all of that and the injuries.
We're just getting it rolling here. Chase Sr. in the house. Hit like and subscribe, everybody. More people will find the stream and the algorithm, but we're always loving being here on a Friday. And usually Chase and I do all Niners, but since Niners are on the bye, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to look ahead to some of these games. and talk a little bit about the viability of some of these teams and also look ahead to some of these matchups. Let's hit the one you referenced. Eagles at Chargers, Monday Night Football at SoFi. This is going to be a huge game for both teams. Excuse me. Chargers are 8-4. Eagles are 8-4. Eagles' run defense got gashed last week, 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bears ran right through them. The Bears' offensive line took it to the Eagles' defensive line. And now the Eagles have Jalen Carter out with he's having procedures on both of his shoulders. The Eagles have given up 898 total yards over their past 2 games, second most allowed over a 2-game span, with Sirianni basically as the head coach. What do you think? I mean, this is kind of a huge one. I was looking at the trend. The Eagles are 13-2 against the number when the line's between +3 and -3 under Sirianni. 19-6 against the spread, including playoffs in that scenario. I would probably lean towards the Eagles here, but the Eagles, I mean, you're up all in the Eagles. Give me your breakdown on the Eagles. I mean, what's going on? They're, last year, excuse me, Saquon had 1,700 yards. This year, it's like around 700 yards. He's down 1,000 yards.
They're not 2,000 yards in the regular season. Yeah, his yards before
the ball like they did.
Down like 1.5 yards. It's crazy.
They're not running it. They're not stopping the run. Their defense isn't the same. They've got Fangio. I know they had a weakness at the corner spot opposite Quinion, but now it seems like things are falling apart for Philadelphia. Give me your thoughts on where the Eagles are as the calendar turns to December here.
Yeah, big one for the Eagles. Jalen Carter going to be out, as you noted, and he's had this shoulder injury that's been lingering all the way back to training camp. He didn't practice the first few practices because of a shoulder problem. Now he got procedures on both shoulders. So he's not right, and he's really the anchor of that defense. And then on the Chargers sideline, it seems like we talk about this every year. They've had a bevy of injuries, and Justin Herbert broke a bone in his non-throwing hand. We're not sure what his status is going to be for Monday night. He has this huge type of cast and brace on his hand, and by the looks of it, it's going to be hard for him to take snaps under center if he plays in this game on Monday. If he can't go, Niner legend Trey Lance will be playing at the quarterback spot for LA. Usually I have a really good pulse on the Eagles, and I have a lot of confidence in knowing what team is going to show up. I have no idea what team is going to show up because this defense started the year not great, and then they improved. They come out of the bye week. They give up 7 points on the road against the Packers, 9 points at home against the Lions. Then the Eagles built a 21-0 lead over the Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago. They give up 24 unanswered. And yardage-wise, I think it was their worst defensive game of the season. Then last week, this Eagles defense under Vic Fangio has not gotten bullied a lot. Last year, they were the number 1 overall defense in the NFL. They got bullied. And the running scheme from Ben Johnson was so creative, so exotic, so dynamic, and so physical. I love what John Middlecoff says. He says Ben Johnson is like the Midwestern Kyle Shanahan, where you think about Shanahan, you think about McVay, you think about Ben Johnson, and you're like, pass happy, a lot of fun, modern concepts, creativity. All 3 of those coaches want to run the football, and they want to be physical. And Ben Johnson's team last Black Friday was extremely physical, and they bullied this Eagles team. And so the Eagles, the last 2 games on defense, have not been able to stop the run. The secondary has been pretty damn good. The biggest story with the Eagles is their offense. I mean, they've been lost all year. The same issues that we're talking about right now, we were talking all the way back in week 1. They're not explosive. They can't run it. Saquon Barkley's yards before contact is down 1.5 yards from last year. His yards after contact also down. This Eagles offensive line took so much pride in playing physical and bully ball last year. They've been bullied this year. They've been bad. They've been injured. Jalen Hurts' numbers are really good, but obviously he has to play better. The play caller, Kevin Patullo, doesn't have a good play calling feel, play calling rhythm. And so the Eagles' backs are kind of against the wall right now. And a lot of Eagles fans are worried that this 2025 team is going to collapse like they did in 2023, which started with that blowout loss to the Niners in Philly when they lost 6 of 7 games to end the year. And so I could see the Eagles playing really well on Monday and putting it together. I could see them getting blown out, and then we're like, man, they're going to choke this thing away again. But I have no idea what team is going to show up because all year they've been Jekyll and Hyde.
The one thing that I think you're going to see in this game is I think Amarion Hampton's coming back and Kamani Vidal and the the Chargers are going to try to run it down the Eagles' throat. The Eagles' defensive front ranks 27th in the NFL in run block win rate. 27th. That's shocking.
Yeah, the offensive line.
Well, no, that Philly's defensive front ranks 27th in run block win rate.
Well, their offensive line is like in that bottom third too, as far as run block win rate. It's insane. Yeah.
Well, it's a huge game for the Chargers. If the Chargers win this game, they got a 60% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Their chances, or I should say right now they do. If they win the game, their chances jump to 74%. If they lose the game, it falls to 50%.
Okay.
So this is a big game for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Do you think Hampton's going to be healthy in that game? I mean, he's on my fantasy team. I'm wondering if I should pull him off the IR for this game against the Eagles.
Yeah, he's been practicing. That'd be a big boost for them. I think he's going to try to give it a go. And if he can play and you lose Justin Herbert, at least you might be able to rely on that running game if you're Jim Harbaugh.
This is do or die for the Chiefs. This is it. Chiefs at home. They're 6-6. They're 3.5-point favorites against the Texans, who are 7-5. Mahomes' is 5-1 career against the Texans, including the playoffs. This is huge for Kansas City, though. I mean, absolutely huge. I'm looking at the percentages here. If the Chiefs win, they only have a 55.2% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, 12.1%. So Texans have a 77, almost 78% chance of making the playoffs with a win. It falls to 37.6% with a loss. So it's a huge game for both the Texans with their killer D and the Chiefs. What do you think? I mean, are the Chiefs going to miss the playoffs? What do you think? Are the Texans going to put the final nail in the coffin in the Chiefs?
They could, and it's funny because going into Thursday, I thought Dallas was playing the best out of any team in the NFC, and they wouldn't be in the playoffs if the season were to have ended that day. And I thought on the AFC side, the Texans were playing the best football of any team in the AFC, and they're on the outside currently looking in. And so this is a massive game for Houston. Their defense has been incredible all year. That's a testament to the defensive unit that DeMeco Ryans has been able to build and coach up. And it's a big game for CJ Stroud because after a really good rookie year, wasn't great last year, hasn't been great this year, came off that concussion last week, wasn't that good. Davis Mills won 3 games in a row. Some Texans fans were saying on our Texans channel here at Chat Sports, like, you got to roll with the hot hand and Davis Mills for the rest of the year, but you're not going to give up on CJ Stroud right now, and you're going to play him if he's healthy. So it's big in that case for Houston. And then for Kansas City, it's do or die time. Like, if you lose this game in a crowded AFC as far as records go, where they have some work to do just to be a wild card team, they're not going to win the AFC West because the Broncos are there. If they lose, this is going to be shocking. I think it's been 6 of the last 7 years where the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game. 5 of the last 6 years, they played in the Super Bowl. And so to not see Kansas City in January, February, it'd be a massive surprise compared to what we've grown accustomed to.
Maybe the game of the weekend is Bears-Packers at Lambeau. Bears are 9-3. They're hot. They've won 9 of 10. Packers are 8-3-1. They've had ownership on the Bears through the years. Ben Johnson this week, was talking about how the Bears win games. He's like, we're winning games in spite of our passing game, not because of it, which is kind of a rip on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams only completed 47% last week against the Eagles. They ran the hell out of it.
He's under 60% for the year.
Yeah, and now you got Green Bay, and, the Bears are running the ball. I mean, the Bears are really running the ball, and Green Bay just lost Devontae Wyatt for the year with an ankle injury. He's their best run defender. They traded Kenny Clark to Dallas in the Parsons trade. So they're leaning now on the interior of guys like Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks. And, I don't know, man. Is Chicago going to run right through Green Bay? This is a huge game for Green Bay. They have a 71% chance to win the NFC North if they win. It drops to 27% with the loss. Christian Watson's been great over the last 3 games. for Green Bay. Packers are 1-6 against the spread, 4-2-1 outright when they lay at least 6 points this season. What do you think? Bears or Packers at Lambeau?
I can't wait for this game, and I have a rare Sunday where I'm not going to be in the studio because the Niners have a bye and the Eagles play on Monday night, so I will have my full attention on this game. And it's huge for Sunday, but the Bears and Packers play 2 times over the next 3 weeks. That could very well decide the NFC North, and depending on what happens in those games and for the remaining schedules of Chicago and Green Bay, there is a reality in which the Detroit Lions, who are on the outside looking in, could actually climb up the NFC and the NFC North standings here, because it is not a cupcake for the rest of the year for either the Bears or the Packers. And these two matchups are obviously going to be huge. These two teams absolutely hate each other, but the Packers' remaining schedule: Bears at home, on the road against the Broncos, Bears in Chicago, Ravens at home, Vikings on the road. And then the Bears' remaining schedule, they have on the road against Green Bay, home against Cleveland. That won't be a cupcake. They go home against Green Bay, or did I say that right? So Chicago is on the road in Green Bay, home against Cleveland, home against
Green Bay,
or
home against Niners,
on the road against the Niners.
Yeah.
And then they round out with Detroit in week 18. Right. So, like, this NFC North is crazy. This NFC North is wide open. As far as, like, the particular matchup, I kind of like Chicago here. You know, I said this last week. They were touchdown underdogs against the Eagles. And I'm like, how is that possible? The Eagles are playing like shit. The Bears are rolling right now. They're feeling very confident. I smashed Chicago +7. Now they're like touchdown underdogs again against Green Bay. And I think that the Bears match up very well against the Packers because of something that you alluded to: their physicality and their run game. This Packers team has been susceptible against the run at a couple of different moments this year. And this Bears running scheme is extremely creative, extremely innovative, and very dynamic. And I just like how the Bears' physicality matches up. Now, the big question is, how is this Bears defense going to play? Because statistically all year, they haven't been great. What they have been, though, is very opportunistic. They have forced a league-leading 26 turnovers this year, and oftentimes they've been able to turn those giveaways into points. And so I think both these games come down to the wire. Chicago is now 6-1 this year in one-score games. We've nicknamed them here at Chat Sports. We're selling shirts, the Cardiac Bears, because they get your heart rate going late in games. And I can't wait to see these games play out between Green Bay and Chicago because of the implications in the NFC North, but the fact that they play 2 times in the next 3 weeks.
It's gonna be juicy because the Bears have owned the Packers have owned the Bears, but you know what? That was a different era, and now the Bears are really rolling. And as you said, Green Bay struggling to stop the run. How about Rams Cardinals this weekend? Rams are 9-3, Cardinals are 3-9. Rams 8.5-point favorites. Cardinals are 0-8 against teams that entered their games with a winning record. Most losses in the NFL, according to ESPN research. And you know, Cardinals are bad. The Rams are coming off a game where they're struggled and they lost to Carolina. The Rams are probably going to cover this number pretty easily, I would think. How do you see Rams Cardinals? Do the Rams cover the 8.5? You know, and like, what do you make of the Rams? I mean, the Rams have the highest 30% chance, the highest chances of making the number 1 seed in the NFC. Stafford's incredible, but it's all based on, does he turn it over? And last week he turned it over and they lost. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, how do you see Rams Cardinals? Cardinals are good in this spot as an underdog, 14-6 against the number in their past 20 games as an underdog.
Everybody was saying the Rams were the Super Bowl favorite in the NFL going into last weekend. What do? They go on the road and they lose as 10-point favorites against Carolina. So they lost that game as 10-point favorites against Carolina. Then back in week 5, they lost as 8.5-point favorites against the Niners. So with the Rams, they're a tough team to gauge because the talent is there. The coaching is there. The eye test is there. When you watch them, you say, wow, this is a really dynamic team and they're really fun to watch. But they've had a really easy schedule. Their best win this year is against the Colts. And I know the Colts got off to that really good start. they haven't been that great over the last month, and they're starting to free fall in the AFC. So I do think the Rams win this game. And I know that Arizona hasn't won since that Dallas game. And since starting 2-0, they have only one win since then. It's against the Cowboys. One thing they've been, though, all year is a very feisty team. And in an NFC West divisional rival game, like anything crazy can happen. Nobody thought Carolina was going to win that game with how bad they looked against the Niners. And then in a game that featured 5 different lead changes, Carolina pulls off the stunning upset. Anything can happen in the NFL. And you know, it's crazy, Larry. If the Rams lose and the Seahawks lose, they play the Falcons, the Niners can go from the 7 seed to the 2 seed without playing a game this weekend.
Let's talk about that Seahawks game. They're 9-3. They've been great on the road. They're 7-point favorites in Atlanta against the Falcons, who are 4-8. But, you know, I don't know. This one makes me, you know, I think Atlanta might have a shot in this game. Darnold's not playing great. He's coming off the worst performance of the season. He had an 18.3 total QBR. You know, they couldn't handle the Viking pressure last week. You know,
Max Brosmer turned it over 4 times in that game.
I know. Yeah. They Vikings sent an extra rusher at Darnold 60% of the dropbacks, and after being sacked only 11 times in the first 11 games, they sacked him 4 times in this game. And Atlanta's second in the league in blitz rate under Jeff Ulbrich. So they're going to get pressure on Darnold, and Darnold is terrible with pressure. I mean, he's just a totally different player. Without pressure, he's maybe one of the best quarterbacks going. With pressure, he's going to turn it over. So I don't know. How do you see Seahawks on the road? 9-3 against 4-8 says Seahawks are going to win and probably cover, but something tells me the Falcons are going to fire in this game.
Big game Sam is like December Dak. When the lights get bright and the pressure is on, Sam Darnold struggles. Dak Prescott struggles. Some guys have it, some guys don't. And it's not just the pressure that you allude to that's from the opposing defense. It's the pressure and the magnitude of the moment. In the last 2 games for Minnesota last year, when Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate, they got blitzed by Detroit, and then they got annihilated in the playoffs by the Los Angeles Rams. In some big games this year, the one against the Rams, he threw 4 picks. Last week against Minnesota, when Minnesota, led by Brian Flores, great defensive mind, dialed up a lot of pressure, Darnold did not perform well. Against Tampa Bay, another really big game earlier this year, Darnold threw a bad pick late in that game, which led to a Buccaneers field goal and win. And you look ahead to Week 18, what are we going to see? We're going to see Seahawks on the road against the Niners. Levi's Stadium is going to be lit. It's going to be the final week of the season. The NFC West crown could be up for grabs. One of the best seeds in the NFC could be up for grabs, and we're going to see another big game Sam Darnold moment. Will he rise up, or will he have another hiccup? We'll see. Atlanta's defense, a lot better than last year. Jeff Ulbrich has done a better job of generating pressure with that defense. The issue with Atlanta is the offense. Kirk Cousins looks really bad. Their coaching staff is an absolute mess. They're one of the hardest teams to watch. But if they do play their A game and they pull off an upset, that would be huge for San Francisco.